Okay, so we are going to be talking about successful missionary leadership. And as was stated earlier, everyone here in this room is a leader. Whether you want to acknowledge that or not, it is true. We can loosely define a leader as someone who intentionally moves people towards a good. And so we are all in this room moving people towards Jesus, who is the ultimate good. And we all are leaders in different ways and in different areas in our lives. So what we're going to do to start here is take a little bit to get to know each other at the table, but we'll start by looking at ourselves. So I want you to take like 3 minutes, don't go super intense on this, and just think about areas that you are a part of in your life. Things a part of your web of existence. So it might be like, where do you live? Who do you live with? I live with a roommate. You might live with a family. What clubs or groups are you a part of? Not only at church. Maybe you go to a gym. Maybe you go to a yacht club. Whatever clubs or groups you're a part of, put it on there. And then what family commitments do you have? Maybe you have young kids at home. Maybe your commitment is taking care of an elderly parent. What kind of family circles are you expected to show up in for life? Where are your commitments? And then where do you work? So take a few minutes and just jot all this down, and then I'll call us back and we'll have a chance to share. So take a moment and write down where are your webs of existence. You guys are a very studious group. Good job. So once you're wrapping that up, if you have some written down, we'll take the next 5 minutes or 7 minutes. Share with people around your table. Whether you had a chance to finish writing or not, just give a little bit of an overview of what are some of the webs you are connected to. So you might not have time to go into all of them, but just what are some communities that you're involved in here at the parish or elsewhere in your life. So we'll take a few minutes and share at your table, and then I'll call you back together. All right. So I hope you got to at least know a little bit about someone else at your table. Maybe you found something in common that you didn't know you had. I think there's usually more similarities than differences once we get to figure out who's connected where and what groups everybody's involved in. So thank you for taking the time to do that. One of the things that we all have in common, whichever groups you're in, there might be one or two of us in this room that don't have this in common. We are all laity in the church. So a lay person in the church is not a priest or a religious. And that's me, and that's most of you here. And in our archdiocese, we have about 200 priests. And as Eric said earlier, there's lots of lay people. And for almost every priest, there's 2,225 lay people. We win. There's way more of us, which is a good thing for our church. Because if you think of all the connections you just found out of where you are, different groups you're a part of, family connections, the power of us to reach people is huge. Way more than one priest could ever reach people. Now, we need each other. We definitely want those 200 priests. But we also have a huge power as lay people. And so what I'm going to do in this next little while here is we're going to look at our particular mission as a layperson and how we can take leadership in that. And then we're going to look at our mission in a parish and how we can take leadership with that. So we're going to start with us in our different webs of existence that we just talked about. And I'm going to look at what is it that makes us lay people special as lay people, and what's our mission. And I'm going to start with this giant quote, don't panic. What I'm taking all this information from is a document called Lumen Gentium, which again, a big Latin word. It's a document from Vatican II. And Vatican II talked a lot about how can lay people really take up our role in the church so that the church can do a better job of loving the world. And so here it says, the term laity is understood to mean all the faithful except those in holy orders and those in the state of religious life. These faithful are by baptism made one body with Christ, and they are constituted among the people of God. And it goes on to say that we have the sharers in Christ's priests, prophet, and kingly functions, and we carry out, for our own part, the mission of the church in the world. So we are all a part of the mission of the church, and we're a part of it from our baptism. Whether you like it or not, if you are baptized, you are in the mission of the church. The problem that we sometimes encounter is we don't know what that mission is, or so we don't want to live it out. Or we'd rather do other things. There's many ways we can err on this, but if we're baptized, we have a mission. And the church needs you and your mission. For us lay people, we have a bit of a balancing act to do, because our mission may not be as clear or obvious as a sister's or a father's or a priest's, because we have so many different variety of things that we can be doing. And so this document goes on to talk about what is it that makes us special. And it says, the laity, by their very vocation, they seek the kingdom of God by engaging in temporal affairs. Temporal affair is something of the world. Who here goes to Walmart and goes shopping for groceries? Maybe you go shopping somewhere else. Who here does laundry? I'm looking at who doesn't have their hand up. Who here walks their dog? I see that really, no, I don't have a dog. Who here walks their cat? Okay, those are all temporal affairs. Who here does banking? I don't like that chore, but I have to do it. So any kind of thing you do that isn't a churchy thing is a temporal affair. That's 95% of your day is a temporal affair. So imagine if we could use those temporal affairs for the glory of God. That's a lot of time for God. So we engage in the temporal affairs. We don't run away from them. Do your laundry. It's okay. But we order them according to the plan of God. So we live in the world, and it says, each of them in all their secular professions and occupations. I'm curious. I was talking with some people at lunch today. Someone was an engineer. What other occupations do we have in this room? Does someone want to share something they learned about their neighbor at their table or their own occupation? Yep. I need to talk to your friend. As life scheduler. All right. Who else? What other careers do we have, occupations in the room? I heard retired. We probably have some retired people in the room. Teachers. All right. There's a variety. We all have a different occupation. So it says, their professions and occupations. They live in the ordinary circumstances of family and social life. Who has a family here? From which the very web of their existence is woven. They are called there by God, that by exercising their proper function and led by the Spirit, they may work for the sanctification of the world from within as a leaven. So that video that Eric showed a while back now, it talked about in Christendom mode, the Christians work from within as a leaven, which means if you break bread, I'm not that great at baking bread, but I have done it. If you put the yeast in there, you don't really even see it or know what it is or what it does. And then all of a sudden it makes your bread. So we are in the world. Ordinary people walking downtown, if we're on our lunch break at work, they might not know we're Christian. But if we exercise our power as lay people, then we will see change in the world from within. It's like we get to be secret agents. It's like a really special role in the church. And so we all have those different webs of existence, and we can exercise that change on the world. And it says we do this by being led by the Spirit. And we're all in a variety of different circumstances. In this way, they may make Christ known to others, especially by the testimony of a life resplendent in faith, hope, and charity. Therefore, since they are tightly bound up in all types of temporal affairs. Anybody here ever feel like you are tightly bound in all types of temporal affairs? Like you have too much to do and you need more time to do it. I feel like that's my life sometime. And that can be frustrating if we want to be a holy Catholic and follow God, and we can think, oh no, I'm not at the church praying like 50 rosaries. I'm doing something wrong. I was talking with a friend of mine, a young adult at my parish, and he runs a company. And he was frustrated because he felt like he wasn't spending enough time at church, doing church things. And he works on an AI company. And this company searches images to see somehow AI can see if the images has been retouched, if there's been any edits on it. And he was talking about how he wanted to spend more time following God, and he felt like he wasn't being doing God's will by focusing on his company. And I was like, your company is doing, my Catholic nerd brain was going in overdrive. I was like, your company is doing exactly what this document is telling you, because your company is working in the world of AI, which I know nothing about, and it's looking for truth. Literally, you are seeking out truth in these videos and images. And you're doing exactly what our church is saying. Go in the world and order things according to God. So how else could we do this? Let's say I run a company, a grocery store. How can I order that work to the plan of God? Am I treating my employees well? Am I charging a fair price? Is my company designed in a way that doesn't discriminate? All these kind of things are ordering our temporal affairs towards God. And we all have different areas of expertise that we need to order. Someone who's in banking isn't going to be doing the same ordering as a veterinarian. They're going to live their faith differently, but they're bringing God to those places. So it says they're bound up in all types of temporal affairs. It's their special task to order and to throw light upon these affairs in such a way that they may come into being and then continually increase according to Christ to the praise of the Creator and the Redeemer. So it says in this way. It doesn't say in this way they will at least not waste a bunch of time, and they might not become as holy as a priest, but at least they're doing something. No, it says in this way, in being in temporal affairs, we're going to bring the praise of the Creator. It doesn't say don't go to church. We need to be in church to get our strength. But we have a special way of being in two places at once as a layperson. We get to be in the church, and we get to be in the world. And that can be a really hard balancing act sometimes. So what this does not say, it does not say, by staying in the church all day and praying 50 rosaries, then they praise God. Now that might be your call. There's a lot of retired people in this room. Maybe you're at a stage where your webs of existence allows you to have more time of prayer. And that's not bad at all. So different people's circumstances are different. But the unique call of the lay people is that we have these temporal affairs, that we get the privilege of praising God with them. So if you want to take a moment at your table and think of that web that you wrote out of the different groups you're involved in, and think about what is one way you have brought Jesus, either by words or by actions. Sometimes we bring him by words, but other times we bring him just by how we act. How have you brought Jesus to one of the areas in your web of existence? And take a few moments to share that with people at your table. All right, thank you for taking the time to share around your table. Hopefully, if you didn't get to everyone, you'll be able to chat later about how you brought Jesus into one of these areas of your life. We all have so many unique areas in our lives. In this room alone, we're bringing Jesus to many, many places. And it's really beautiful because Jesus can go all these variety. Jesus can go to an office downtown. Jesus can go to a construction site. Jesus is going to a library. And you're the one bringing him. And so it's a really beautiful mission. And I really hope you feel more empowered to take leadership on that when it doesn't feel like that's what you're doing. I hope you feel powered to make that conscious choice to bring Jesus to those areas. So that was our focus on you and your mission. And now we're going to hold that there for a while. And we're going to take a step in another angle. And we're going to look at our church, your church, St. Francis Xavier. So we're going to do similar as before. We're going to think about where is St. Francis Xavier. And then I'll bring the two together later. So for now, anybody here an artist? You're going to do some drawing at your table. It's not going to be graded, don't worry. It's a really easy drawing. It doesn't even have to be colorful. So take a few minutes, just on your own or with someone next to you, and draw a picture or a chart. Some people are more picture, some people are more, you got to have a structure in this chart. Whichever style you are, what you know about how your parish is organized. So if you're a part of a ministry or I always say this word wrong, sodality, you could draw that in there. And then make sure you include other ministries or groups that you know in the parish, maybe how they're connected. What do you know about how your parish is structured? So you're going to take time to draw that out. And then, just include anything you know that you want to put in there. So I'll give you like 3 minutes. This is not going to be top-notch drawing, don't worry. But take a minute to look at what you know about what your parish is organized like. All right, take a go on it. Your pastor somewhere in your drawing. That's one thing everyone knows. Okay, we're at the parish. Father's going to be there somewhere. Does anyone want to share how many ministries or groups or sodalities that they put on their drawing? Anybody had more than 10 groups on their drawing? Whoa, okay. Did anybody have less than 10 on their drawing? Yeah? Okay. So one of the things that you may have noticed from attempting this is you might not know a lot about how your parish is organized. And you probably don't know every group. So, I don't know. Does anyone think they got all the groups in their parish? No one's admitting that. Yeah, odds are we missed a couple. Yeah. All right. So, every parish has a different structure. And Eric's going to talk more about different parish structures later on. But for now, I think this gets you thinking about how is your parish organized and how do you know who's doing what in your parish and how can the parish serve the mission. We find when we work with a lot of parishes, sometimes there can be frustrations in your parish because people don't know how things are set up or who they're supposed to talk to. Somebody knows, but you got to know who knows to know who to talk to figure out where you're going. It can be a big chain. So I'm going to read you some statements about parishes and you and your parish, and see if you can think which ones apply to you. You personally, not your parish, but what statements apply to you. So I'll read them out. If they apply to you, keep track. If you're like me and you don't count in your head and you're not very good at counting, you can hold up your fingers. If you want to count in your head, count in your head. But keep track of how many of these that you say yes to. And I'll read them just because it's far for some people. So the first statement is, I love our parish. The second statement, I have been annoyed with something at our parish. I think our parish is operating under potential. I don't fully understand how things are organized at our parish. I or my ministry would like more direction, approval, or recognition from Father. I wish ministries worked more collaboratively in our parish. I would like to know how to better serve our parish. I wish more people would come to know Jesus through St. Francis Xavier. Now see, I'm counting myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. There's 8 there. Is there? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so how many people will start, I don't need to know which ones. How many people said yes to 5 or more of those statements? Yeah? Okay, nice. How many people said yes to 6 or more of those statements? Hey, still quite a few hands. 7? Did anyone say yes to all 8? Okay, a couple people. So these are some common things that you might be feeling about your parish. I hope everyone said you love your parish. My guess is number 2 was also very popular. I have been annoyed with something at our parish. That would be a popular one for me at my parish. Parishes can be frustrating. So our parish, your parish, St. Francis Xavier, has a mission. Just like you have a mission as a layperson to bring Jesus into all your webs and to live your faith well in every area and represent him. And your goal is to bring others to Jesus through that. Our parishes also have this goal. In your own life, if you're haphazardly bringing people to Jesus, it's going to be harder. If you don't really think about Jesus, or you're not praying, and it's you don't really, sometimes I have to consciously be like, okay, how can I love the person in front of me? Because if I'm not thinking that way, it's really easy to not think that way. And so same with a parish, sometimes we have to be very intentional about how we do things. And our parishes, as Eric mentioned earlier, might not be equipped enough to be able to do this. So how does the parish fit into our role as a layperson? Why are we in a parish? I want to share from my personal experience. So I need my parish, 100% hands down. Why? Because I need Jesus. I need to go and receive Jesus in the Eucharist to be able to have him inside of me, to be able to bring him to others, to have that strength so that I can be the best person I can be. I need that. And I'm going to get that from my parish. My parish helps me become a missionary disciple. So I have groups in my parish that I'm a part of where I meet with other friends that I know through my parish, and they challenge me in my faith. I learn things about my faith, not because I want to learn a bunch of things and be super smart, but I learn things about my faith because I want to be better at being a disciple of Jesus. And then some things I do at my parish are to help other people become a disciple. Sometimes I'm volunteering at like a potluck, And I know some of the people coming to that potluck don't know Jesus. And so I'm on the lookout for them. And I'm thinking, how can I help them become closer to Jesus by interacting with my parish? So I think going back to our part about us going in the church and praying like 50 rosaries, sometimes we have the temptation, I can also have this temptation, that if I'm not at the parish like every night doing something, then I'm not actually serving the church. Which I need to volunteer in my parish to help others become closer to Jesus. But I also have my role as a layperson out in the world. So our goal to be missionary disciples is not to do more things at the parish. Our goal is to do things at the parish that help us and others become missionary disciples. Sometimes we get in operating mode and we just do more things at the parish, and we have tons of groups on our parish chart that we don't know if we drew right or not, but they're there. But we don't know what they're doing, and we don't know what the plan is to help people become a missionary disciple. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call Eric up, and he's going to lead us into talking more about structure pieces in the church that can help us with this goal so that we can really learn how to become missionary disciples through activities at our parish and not just doing activities at our parish.
Thanks, Louisa. 5 years ago, when I started working for the Archdiocese in 2019, one of the things that I got to discuss with Archbishop Miller was the idea of leadership teams. And as you may know, he has been spending a lot of time going into parishes, parish visits, and getting to know the people, getting to know the activities and the structures and all that. And one of the things that he has regularly encouraged parishes to take on is to bring about, specifically to the pastors, to bring about this idea of a parish leadership team, or a PLT. Now, at the time in 2019 when I came on, there was probably about 3 or 4 parishes that adopted this structure in their parish, to have a parish leadership team. And as of today, we have something around 20 to 22 of our parishes now running through leadership teams, which is to say that there not only has there been a value that parishes are seeing in holding on to leadership teams, but the pastors are also starting to see the value as well, and that they're wanting it and they're looking to adopt this parish leadership team. Now, a parish leadership team is different from a parish pastoral council. Are some of you on parish pastoral council here in the room? Yep, there's a couple. Okay. So parish pastoral councils have a particular role in the life of the parish. There's a mandate from the Archbishop, which also comes from the Church Universal, which is to say that parishes should have a pastoral council. And their primary role is in the name of the group, which is to counsel, to give advice, to counsel our pastor in its ability to serve the people of God in the parish. That's what a parish pastoral council is about. There is another structure that is required of every parish, which is called the finance council. Do we have any finance council members in the room? We got a few, okay. So you know how much the lunch cost today, and you're aware of the various aspects of the spending and the revenue and donations that come in. You also work with the pastor to think about future planning and all of those things that are that require attention, not just with regards to finances, but the temporal goods of the parish. Now, a parish leadership team is different from both of those in that a parish leadership team is a group of individuals who are like-minded with the pastor and the vision that the Holy Spirit has given to this parish, and is working with the pastor to help bring that vision forward. That's the role of a parish leadership team. Now, you've heard us talk a little bit about leadership at various times to say we're all leaders, you're a leader, I'm a leader, because we influence, because we're helping people move towards a common good. This definition can apply to us individually as well as to this team. So I put it up on screen. I want to propose that we use this definition of leadership to move us forward in understanding what is a parish leadership team and what is our role as leaders. Leadership is intentional influence that helps others move towards a common good. Intentional means it's planned, it's thought about, it's considered. We're doing something of our own initiative to influence, not to coerce, not to force, not to mandate, not to require, but to influence, meaning we know that people in front of us have choices, they have their freedom, they can make decisions on their own, but we want to help influence it and help us move people towards a common good. You could say that that's really at the heart of a parish leadership team. So a parish leadership team helps the pastor align the parish to what's most important for its mission. As I mentioned earlier, because we've found ourselves in a more secularized society, Christendom is no longer a driving force in our world, in our Western world. There's a lot of intentionality that has to come with the activities that we take on. Okay, so it helps the pastor align the parish to what's most important, helps the pastor lead the vision and priorities of the parish, and brings ministries, groups, councils, parishioners on board and in alignment with the parish vision. And this last point is really important. A parish leadership team is an operating body. It's not an advisory, it's not a council, it's not representative. It's not a representative body. It's people who are willing to do some of the heavy lifting of leadership, of carrying the vision forward and the mission forward with the pastor. Now, as I mentioned, we've been able to work with 20 plus parishes in our archdiocese, and I've been privileged to work with my pastor, Father Matthew Chow, at St. Patrick's in Maple Ridge for over 10 years. We happened to show up at the parish around the same time. And we were one of those early parishes that adopted this model of having a parish leadership team. And over the years, we've seen our pastor, Father Matthew, share some insights into how it has been fruitful for the parish to have a leadership team. The first thing he said to us as a team was, I no longer feel alone. I no longer feel alone in having to make decisions. I don't have the burden of caring for the people on my own. I'm able to share ideas with others that I trust, and I know they'll push back when they need to push back. Like he wasn't interested in having people say, yes, Father, yes, Father, yes, Father, yes, Father. There's a story of a pastor who said, someone came up to him and said, we don't know what to do with the flowers in the garden. What do you think we should do with the flowers in the garden? And he said, well, I kind of like purple flowers. And then the following week, it was purple flowers across the entire campus for the rest of the year. Okay, our pastors aren't looking for people who are just going to say yes to them. They want to be engaged in a normal relationship with all of us, right? And if you're part of families, you know this. There's arguments, and there's challenges, and there's ideas that get put forward, and we come together as a family to find out what's best for our family. And our pastors were looking for that. Okay? The other thing our pastor said, I'm not as tired as I was before. He was tired because he would work from morning until evening in various meetings, ministries, all kinds of different coordination. He would have a finance council meeting to determine the future of some capital projects that we would have, and then the next hour he's cleaning a toilet, right? He's doing everything in between in the life of the parish. So he no longer felt exhausted in ministry. Okay. He also started to feel a sense of family and community that he hadn't had before, in that he had a group of people that he got to spend time with and talk to about some of the day-to-day interactions and the activities that were going on. One of the things he said about this parish leadership team that really helped him was that he was so happy that there were things that were going on in the parish that he didn't even know about, but trusted that they were good things because of the people that he had around him. Okay? So this idea of parish leadership team isn't something that we just turn on with a switch to say, we're now going to have a parish leadership team, and tomorrow you're going to hear from Father, and he's going to make this announcement of this group of people who are now going to be a parish leadership team. It doesn't work that way. A lot of what happens is discernment, okay? I think part of why you're here is because we want you to hear about the idea of leadership team, maybe even consider if the Holy Spirit might be prompting you or prompting others to be part of this leadership team. And it's really a way of us moving towards this idea of it, okay? And this idea has to be something that the community buys into, understands, knows that it could be good for us, and can help us in our mission, okay? Here's what I want us to do. And this is going to be a bit more, there's going to be some homework an assignment with this part of the discussion. I would like for your teams or for your tables to discuss your thoughts on the idea of a parish leadership team at SFX. To also consider what might be unique concerns to consider if starting a parish leadership team here at SFX. I think one of them is certainly to say that we're a Chinese community here, which is to say that we operate beyond the parish boundary, the traditional parish boundaries that a lot of parishes are held to. Okay? And then the last question, which isn't on your paper and it's not up here, is what characteristics of leaders would you value on members of the parish leadership team? What values would you would you be looking for? It could be clear communication, humility, whatever it might be. There could be a variety of different values that you would like to see in a parish leadership team member. And here's the assignment. You have your QR codes, and on the QR code, it's going to open up a form, and we would love for someone at your table to open up that form and capture for us these characteristics and what you value in a leadership team member. Okay, this is something that we're going to give back to Simon and then to Father and to the to you as a parish to gather and understand what we're looking for in a possible leadership team. Okay, so you're going to have to assign it. If you can't get onto the form, you have extra pieces of paper. You can do it old school and write it on a piece of paper. You'll give it to Simon. He'll have to type it up later. Right, Simon? Yep. He's nodding. No, he's not. But let's take some time now. Let's discuss what you think about the idea of a parish leadership team here at SFX, any unique concerns, and then qualities of a leader. Okay? All right. Hand it back to you. I'm seeing that there's some questions that have come as well as a result of our exercise. And my anticipation is that there might even be more questions about PLTs amongst you right now. So we may not get all of the content done with why vision matters, but I think it would be really great for us to address some of the thoughts and questions that you have around PLTs, okay? So a couple of these are quite practical. So some of a question was asked, like, how big is a PLT? How many members are part of a PLT? First, I'll mention that PLT stands for Parish Leadership Team. And team matters because this is not a council. This is not a consultative body. It's not a representative body. It is a team which is meant to work together towards a common good. And so if the team is too large for the pastor to work together with, then it's no longer a cohesive team. It's a team that can be bureaucratic or can be frustrating to move forward. So you want your team to be small enough that you can meet on a regular basis, but large enough that it can handle and manage some of the day-to-day and the various activities of the parish. So leadership teams in the Archdiocese range from as little as 3 or 4 and up to about 6 or 7. Okay? Some of the other questions that came were, are the leadership teams at other parishes, are they hired by the parish or are they volunteers? And the answer is yes. Some parishes have they've hired some people that work in the parish and they are part of the leadership team. and others are strictly volunteers. St. Francis de Sales in Burnaby, as an example, is a leadership team that is made up of just volunteers, whereas St. Anthony of Padua in Marpole is made up of all hires. So they have a director of operations, they have a director of parish life, and then they also have their school principal on their leadership team. Schools in our archdiocese are ministries of the parish. They're owned and operated and run by the parish. And I'm not sure what the school is like here, but many parishes struggle with evangelizing in the schools. We know that these schools attract a lot of families, and these families come from various backgrounds and faith experiences, and we see a huge opportunity to evangelize in our schools. And so St. Anthony of Padua, as an example, has invited their school principal to be part of that leadership team. Okay? Some other questions. How does a parish form this team? Is it by election? Is it by recommendation? All of the teams that have been formed in our archdiocese has been at the pastor's invitation. Now, it isn't to say that the pastor has taken this, behind closed doors and has made this decision all on his own. They have consulted and they have spent time listening, and they've gotten to know their parishioners, and they've also gotten to know the ministry leaders. And the biggest characteristic that we would want for any parish team member is that they are trusted by their pastor. They're trusted by their pastor. PLTs work alongside the pastor, not to take away any kind of authority. Right? Pastors have full authority, and they shouldn't abdicate that authority, but they do need to trust people that they can delegate that authority to. Which is to say, if I'm a pastor and I have a PLT and I trust the person across the table, I'm going to trust them to make decisions on my behalf. That's really how it works, okay? Okay, what does a PLT do? Well, they meet with teams, they meet as a team, they discuss the activities of the parish, and they help pastors make decisions and execute on those decisions. They help the pastor make decisions and execute on those decisions. Now, they may not execute them directly. They might also be asked to oversee a particular area. I'll use St. Anthony of Padua as an example. They have someone who is a director of operations, and so she helps make decisions around some of the operative things that are occurring. When are we going to arrange for the upkeep of the parish? Who are we going to hire for janitorial services, and all the things that just need the parish to operate is set up under the director of operations. And that director comes into the leadership team and then goes around the table and says, "What do you guys think about this? We're thinking of doing some work in the parish basement." And then the principal says, "Just wait a minute. We've got a couple of classes that use that basement on Thursday, Friday. What are we going to do about that?" And they're helping make these decisions so that our pastor doesn't have to make those decisions, and they can spend more time pastoring people, administering the sacraments, spending more time in the care, the spiritual care and the pastoring care of our people. Okay, let me make sure I see some of the other questions here. Process of a leadership team, got that one. Oh, how does the PLT relate to the leadership team relate to the parish pastoral council? And I think part of the question is who's over who? Who's got the most power? Okay. First, we'll say that the pastor is the final authoritative figure in any parish. Okay, so there is no other, they make the final decision. Except in the case with finance council, they have to, certainly get approvals for certain levels of spending, right? And that's canonically stated that finance councils have to exist in order for that to occur. And I think it's great that that's the case, because, we want to be able to have all the, all the things in place just so that we make good decisions. But the pastoral council doesn't have authoritative power. They are a consultative body. And so if you were to create, from a business perspective, an organizational chart, you have your pastor, you can call them the CEO, whatever you want to call them. The parish pastoral council is just an advisory board. And then the leadership team could be kind of, you could almost see them kind of like the executive or the C-suite folks that are around the CEO to help make meaningful leadership decisions for the life of the parish. So if you wanted to put it on an org chart, they're at the top, but any authority that they have is because they have been entrusted by the pastor to make decisions on the pastor's behalf. So there's no abdication of responsibility. Parish leadership teams operate under the structures that a parish is expected to operate under. Okay. What were some of the other questions? What's the term? What's an ideal term of a PLT member? Part of, let's say, at least in the Archdiocese, none of our parishes have defined terms for their PLTs. They have, and again, the PLT member really has to be someone who the pastor can trust to work with. And so if that trust can't be met, then I'd say the pastor should let that person go from the PLT. This isn't to say that we're asking you to be like exiled from the parish. It's just to say that it's not a fit in this particular role. Not all of us are fits for this particular role, but some are. And if they can be trusted by the pastor and help move the vision and the mission forward, then they should stay on until they can no longer hold that position, until the Holy Spirit prompts something differently. So Krista had mentioned the PLT that she was a part of at Christ the Redeemer, and they've had a number of members leave. And most of those members, because they were trusted by the pastor as faithful disciples, they also trusted that their discernment was done well, and that they were faithful to to God's prompting in their lives. So they had 2 members over the course of the year just say, in prayerful discernment, I think it's time for us to move on. And they did that, and then they did the work to find other individuals. And that work was done collaboratively. It wasn't an election or any kind of recommendation. It was more to say, these are the people that we feel the pastor trusts a lot, and that they have the qualities of leadership that the pastor and the parish was looking for. Okay. PLTs are a very new thing. And most dioceses across Canada, I get a chance to talk to them, they're not approaching it, this work in this way. We have found that there are parishes across Canada and the United States that have become more missional and even more fruitful in their capacity, not just to maintain the parish, but to grow the parish and to bring in more individuals to encounter Jesus in a meaningful way. And so, we want to take the best of those principles, and we're making changes. So a lot of what we're doing is pioneering. We're making it up as we go. We're building the bridge as we're standing on it. We're building the plane as we're flying. So what that means is some of the questions that you might have could be questions around structure and operations and different things. And a lot of that comes from our experience of a parish operation that has for the most part, is beginning to lose its capacity to reach the world in the way that we would like it to reach. Okay? So I'd say all the questions that you're asking are great questions, and part of the answers will have to come by way of our own discernment here with the Holy Spirit prompting us, but also what's going to work for our parish. I think at the back table you had mentioned, this parish is highly organized. That there's some structures that are in place that help with that. Not every parish is like that. Some parishes have just a pastor, a secretary, and a bookkeeper, and they solely rely on volunteers, and their calendaring or their organization or their operations is, for lack of a better term, an absolute mess. And so pastors who bring in leadership teams, they're just asking for people who are willing to volunteer their time to help clean up the mess. And they're so grateful for it because then they get a lot more efficient and effective with their mission. So I'd say one of the unique things that I've noticed here is that you have a lot of sodalities and you have a lot of ministries and different groups that are part of the life of the parish. And so a PLT might have as part of its mandate a unifying of all of these groups, in order to move in the right direction. You could almost say that the PLT might be just help, they're the drum at the front of the boat, making sure you guys are all rowing at the same rhythm, at the same speed in the right direction.
Assuming that there is a change and there is a leadership team, how does that change come about that people will now seem to have to report or work with this team rather than going directly to Father? Because they're so used to it. They find that they get their answers quicker.
Yeah. So this is something that our team at the Archdiocese can help with, and really what we're talking about is the difference between change and transition. So a change is like saying, one day we didn't have a PLT and the next day we did, right? That's the change. But there is a period of transition whereby we would have to think about the way in which we communicate to all of the different groups, to the parish, to all the stakeholders, to say we're in a transitional stage to bring about a PLT in order to help the pastor, in order to move our mission and vision forward. And this is what it's going to require. There's going to be some messiness. There's going to be some change in communication. There could be some ways in which, quote unquote, reporting might come in differently. So part of, I think, that process is to say that that the PLT and the parish would acknowledge that there might be a 6-month transition or a 1-year transition for us to communicate all the differences. And some of that differences is just going to have some bumps in the way in which communication occurs. Okay? Yeah.
Do we have a PLT already right now?
Question is, does SFX have a PLT already?
Are you aware?
I don't think they do. You do? Yeah. Parish Pastoral Council, is that what you're asking? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Every parish has a PPC. Yeah. So I'm using the acronyms because it's easier to say.
10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, so it's a certain expectation from parishes to have this model in this system?
Yeah. So the Archbishop is not mandating or requiring parishes to have parish leadership teams. So that's probably the easiest way to answer your question. What he is doing is he is recommending it for the variety of reasons that we've shared and for the sake of his own pastors. So he knows where the pastors are. He knows they're tired, they're overworked, they're lonely, they're isolated, they're challenged. And he also knows and is aware of the fact that Christendom and the Vancouver is changing rapidly. And his recommendation is to say, for this time, in this place, this is a best practice or a way forward to help respond to all of those things. Yeah. But we leave it at the discretion of the pastor. Really, if the pastor is not in a situation where he feels that a leadership team is going to help him, he's not required to put together a team. So it's in the best interest of the pastor and the parish, and we recommend, we say, if you want to do it, great, we're going to help you. If you don't want to, no problem. So the question is, what does the PLT do? Yeah, the PLT, again, would meet with the pastor to help him make decisions and then to help execute on those decisions. Yeah, so some of it is program, some of it is operations, some of it is, perhaps even long-term planning. Some of it is just doing the work of trying to hear the voice of the people as well, right? One pastor it can be very daunting to have to listen to and try to understand, the needs of all of the people in the parish. I'm curious, how many families are registered here at SFX? Who would know that answer? 1068. 1068? Just under 1,100? Yeah. 1,000? Yep. 1,500. Okay, so that's different. That's a third more.
Just actively registered.
Actively registered. Okay. Okay. 3,000 more? Okay. And so in the database, you have something like 4,000 families, but actively engaged would be around 1,500. Okay. Okay. You're a large parish, but you're not close. We have some parishes that are in the 2,000 and 3,000 family range. So you're not in the big jumbo size, but you're in the sort of mid large. I don't know what you would call that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Don't forget, put in your characteristics of a leader, of a parish leader, PLT member, on the form or on a piece of paper to give to Simon.